Hello and welcome to Painting with Jasmine Rempel Art. Today I'm going to make 2 bookmarks. I have been asked to do these for a customer. They are to be butterfly bookmarks using blues and greens. So I have here Arches watercolor paper, cold pressed 140 pound. I have cut them into 5 by 2 and 18 centimeter rectangles. So I have already sketched on my butterflies. I have here my kneadable eraser, and I'm actually going to lift off a little bit of the sketch so that I just see faint outlines, and this way not so much of the pencil will show up underneath the paint if any of the paint is transparent. My paint that I'm going to be using is Windsor Newton professional paint. If you don't have professional paint, no problem, you can use any kind of watercolor paint. I have used Cotman's, Windsor Newton Cotman's. That's more of a student level with great success. I prefer the professional paints. They just have a better quality about them. The bookmarks are supposed to be green and blues, and so I have here Windsor Newton aqua green. I have also put a little bit of viridian green. I've got Windsor yellow. This is French ultramarine, and this is a little tiny bit of cobalt blue. I may have to add more. I definitely won't need more of this aqua green. A lot came out at once. Okay, so here we go. I'm starting out with a number 4 round. This happens to be a Windsor Newton Cotman round brush. Works great for me. I'm going to apply some wet paint into the 4 wings of this bottom butterfly. Looks like I had a little bit of paint in my brush. That's fine. And I'm going to use a wet and wet technique. I don't have a particular plan in mind as I'm starting out. I will go with the flow. There's one wing wet, and I'm going to take some of this aqua green and dilute it a little bit, and then I'm just going to tap it into this wing and let this color bleed out a little bit. These butterflies I'm doing aren't any type of butterfly that I've seen in nature. I'm simply creating them from my imagination. There's one wing. I think I'm going to get a little bit of the yellow. Let's tap some yellow in here and there. Now it's time to wet this wing. Just putting water. This is what we call wet on wet. I wet the paper, and then I add wet paint onto that paper. And it creates this lovely translucent, free-flowing effect. That's a beautiful color. It's a new color. I just purchased some paints. My husband took me to an art store for my birthday, and I got to buy new paints. What a joy. So now I'm playing with them. Okay, there's another wing, and I'll go back into this Windsor yellow and tap in a little bit of warm hue. Good. Now I will let that dry, and I'll move into another forewing up here. And again, just getting it wet. While the ones below dry, I'll work on areas that are not wet. It's if I started right away into these wings, there's a possibility that the water, the pigment would move into the next wet area and bleed out, which can look very lovely sometimes, but that's not what I want now. Okay, so I think I'll actually make this wing mostly yellow, starting from center. Nice warm color, bright. And then I think I'll take this same aqua green and I'll just tap it into the edges and let those two colors meet and run together. Do the same thing here. Get this wet. Now, I sketched on these butterflies. First, if you have some trouble with drawing, you could always get an image and trace an image on using tracing paper or a tracing app before you paint in the color. I don't have drawings available at this point on my YouTube channel. Maybe in the future I'll offer some. I'm a full-time teacher. I teach grade 2 this year, so I try to get as much time as I can to paint, but I find my time's limited, so I haven't been able to figure out yet how to create drawings and upload them for people to enjoy, but maybe in the summer when I have some free time. Okay, those are kind of bleeding in together. I think I'll encourage a little more of that here. Good. That's kind of pretty. Bring it in a little more from the top. From the top. Okay, I'll let that dry and move into the top one. Again, just wetting this area. At least part way. And I think this time I will go into the French ultramarine and tap in that blue. Pretty. Let it bleed out. And actually, I think I'll go all the way with that blue. This area right here that I'm working on is dry. And I've created a couple of bumps there. Nice. I think for this wing, I'm going to get a little bit of kosher salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt up into this wing, just a little, and it will create some lovely textures. Okay, and other side. Just adding some water. I didn't go all the way to the edge because I want to work wet on dry at the very edges. And tapping in that color, letting it bleed out. I started watercolor about 1.5 years ago in the summer. A student of mine gave me a gift certificate for a local craft store, and so I bought a little travel watercolor set and had fun with the spontaneity of the color. And after that, I just began to do more and more with watercolor. I find that it's a medium that can be used when you don't have a lot of time. And I like the flow and the spontaneity of using it. And the special effects you can get. Salts and many other things. Okay, now I'm going to head down into the bottom area on this one. And I'll get that wet again. I'm not going all the way to the end. And go into the same color. Just tap it in. Let it bleed out. And I'm going to get that nice Windsor yellow, very bright. And I'm going to put it down here and let it bleed into this color. I've left some white spaces for some interesting patterns. There we go. Tapping in a little bit of that green around the edge. Okay, time for this side. Again, putting in my water first, but not all the way to the edge. Just from the center. Getting this lovely aqua green. Tap it in. Let it bleed out. Bleeds so beautifully. I love this, watching the color move out into the water. Okay. Now go into my yellow, which has a tint of green to it. That's fine. And come into the edge. And again, leaving some, oh, it really started bleeding in there. That's okay. I think I'll actually lift that a bit. I have a dry brush and I'm lifting some of that yellow. There we go. Take some of this aqua and just bring it down a bit. Touch some of those edges. Run it along a little bit to curve curve it a little bit more. Good. That's pretty. I think I'll add a little salt to the bottom. You can see on the top the salt's creating this lovely pattern on the top, or texture. All right, let's add some color into here. This time I'm just going straight into my yellow, diluting it a little bit with water. And I'll just go straight onto the paper, wet on dry. Bring that yellow down. It'll be brighter now. The yellow, it will be brighter on the hind wings than it is on the fore wings because there was no water on the paper. And now I'm going back into that lovely aqua and get a little more diluted, and I'm just going to run that along the edge here. It is again wet on dry. Trying to get it as symmetrical as possible. And then I'm going to tap it into here. And connect a couple of them. It's fun, pretty, fairly spontaneous. Okay, now these bottom wings, I think I'll stick with the wet on wet. And this lovely French ultramarine. Let it bleed out into that water. And then create my curves. At this point, I've been able to do this entire bookmark with this number 4 round. It's got a lovely tip. Tapping that in again. And creating my curves. Trying my best to match what I see on the other side. Probably will not be exact, and that's fine. Okay, beautiful. I love French ultramarine. It's such a pretty color. Let's get a bit of that kosher salt. I'm just drying my fingers, and I'm just going to put some on the bottom. Good. All right, now these two hind wings are quite light, and so I'm wanting to add little bit of design in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, yeah, maybe I'll zoom in for you here if I can. Move that up. I'm drawing a shape and another, a leaf shape and another, and then I'm drawing a triangular type shape, okay. Now what I'm going to do, zoom out for you, I'm going to create some color that's just the straight aqua. I think I'm actually going to add a little bit of this French ultramarine into it to even deepen the hue even more, the value of it. And I have this nice deep value, and I'm going to use that into the top wing. So I'll zoom in for you to see what I'm up to here. This is wet on dry. And I'm basically going to paint around my drawn in shapes. I'm using a much smaller round brush right now. This is a number 2 with this lovely edge to it. I'm saving those leaf shapes, painting around them. And then we have this nice detail. I think I'll turn this into a heart. These bookmarks are for a couple of girls who live in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so do the exact same thing on this side. What I'm doing is saving, I'm adding a darker value and I'm saving some of that lighter value by going around it, creating some shapes, just to make the wings look a little more interesting. Create that into the heart. Almost done. I suppose I didn't save it down here. Oops. I'm going to need to fill this in. That's fine. There we go. That still looks very lovely. Good. Then I'm going to take the same color and just run it between this here. Good. Okay, let's zoom out and see what it looks like. Nice. Okay, what I did here, I want to do something similar up here. It's still wet, so I'm going to wait. And in the meantime, I think I will just add a couple of designs using this nice dark hue to tie the top and the bottom together a little more, just around the edges. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my blow dryer, so I will pause the video for a minute. Well, now it's nice and dry, and there's a variety of things that I still need to do. I feel like these wings could use a little bit of extra, so I'm going to zoom you in, and I'm going to use my pencil. And again, similar to what I did on the bottom one, I'm going to do a little bit of drawing. I'll have that nice yellow saved. And I do want, I think I'm going to actually erase this and expand those a little farther. There we go. That's better. Good. And then I want to save some of this nice, beautiful green. Good. Okay, so now I've got my shapes all saved, and now it's time to mix up a bit of color. And again, I'm using my number 2 round, and this is, I forget what color I put in there. I believe it's actually the aqua green is what it is. So for this, I'm just going to use straight aqua green, and it'll be quite a lot of pigment in it, so that it's quite, the value will be quite dark. All right, let's zoom in again for you. And I'm going to take this nice wet brush full of pigment and run it along this wing, using that lovely tip to draw with. This part's very satisfying. Just love seeing these rich colors being applied. I could put you on time lapse for this, but I'm imagining that maybe you're painting as well at this moment, and you certainly can fast forward your video. I haven't had time to lately, but I used to watch lots of tutorials myself when I was first starting out with watercolor, and I would often pause as I needed to pause, or I would fast forward as I needed to fast forward. I love that. I loved that people put tutorials online for others to enjoy for free, to learn from them. And I find painting from a video worked well for me. Sometimes when I go to a live class, I maybe can't keep up, whereas with a video, you can stop when you need to, you can rewind when you need to, etc. The only tricky part is you can't ask questions. Well, I suppose you could in the comments, but not while you're painting. You don't know that you're getting the answer right away. There are a couple of people's whose tutorials I love to follow. One, her name was, because sometimes I still check out her work. Her name is Karen Rice. And there's another, I forget her last name, but her name is Ellen, and she just has a lovely, relaxed way about her. I loved painting along with Ellen and Karen. Okay, there we go. Looks very dark in the video. It's not as dark. Oops, I turned you off. It looks very dark in the video, but it's not as dark in real life. There we go. Okay, that's pretty. Very pretty. I think these girls are going to love these. I don't want to do a lot with this because there's already that salt effect. It's dry, so I'll just take that salt off with the rubber cement square. Could simply use your fingers if you don't have a square. All right, good. It's time to put the bodies in. Down here, I'm going to use the French ultramarine for the body so that I have some carry through of color, some unity. And here's the thorax, the area where the wings are attached, and abdomen. Just drawing it on, and a little head. Good. And I'm going to tap in a little bit of this darker value on the edges, just here and there. Okay. For the antennae, I have a rigger brush or a liner brush, and I'll use that ultramarine again, and with some of this darker value I created for these. And I just want to pull out and pull out. There we go. Nice. For this one, I think I will use this green, aqua green. There's my thorax and the abdomen. And the little head. Nice. Rigger brush. I use the same color. Out, and this time in. And up here, I think I will use the French ultramarine, but I'll add a touch of the Windsor yellow to it. There we go. Thorax, abdomen, and head. I'm just gonna lift a little bit here, lighten it up part of it, giving a little bit of an illusion of some value, some form, a bit of highlight. Lift again. So to lift, I just cleaned off my brush and I dried it, and then I was able to pull up some of the pigment. I'll do the same here. It's a dry brush, it's clean. I'll lift a little bit of pigment. Okay, clean my brush. Rigger. And out, just a flick. Ooh, that one was really big. I think I'm going to get a wet brush and run it along, and then get my paper towel, and I'm just gonna lift that up. Wet brush and lift. It's like an eraser. Lift. Okay, once that dries, I will do my second attempt. Okay. I think that's quite pretty. I like to do a bit of splatter painting just to fill in some of these white areas, and then I'll sign it. So I think I'll splatter paint with some yellow. And then a little bit of this ultramarine blue. There, that will do. Sign it with my rigger brush, just using one of the colors that I've used, not being too fussy about what color I use. Jasmine Rimple. And let's try to get this antennae on. Antenna. There. Sometimes I'll use a marker to do the antenna. All right, there's one bookmark. I'm going to lift this off, and we'll see what it looks like when I peel off the tape. There we go. I will do my next bookmark with similar colors, but I'll do it on time lapse for you to see. Okay, I decided not to add these extra details to this one because I like the softness to it. So I'm going to peel now the tape off. I have splatter painted it. Let's move this palette aside. I used viridian green and cobalt blue along with the Windsor yellow throughout this one. And I worked wet on wet through the whole piece. Added some salt to this. Now it has some pencil marks. Once it fully dries, I will erase the pencil marks, and I typically laminate and add a tassel to my bookmarks as well. So there we have them. There are two beautiful butterfly bookmarks in blues and greens and yellows, harmonious colors. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you really enjoyed yourself. Hope you created some butterflies. If you want to share them with me, you can I believe you can leave a photograph in the YouTube messages. If not, you can also find me on Instagram, Jasmine Rempel Art. I don't have a Facebook account solely for art, but I do have a Jasmine Rempel Facebook account, and you can message me there. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. I'd be delighted to paint with you again. All the best. Happy creating.